Let's go. So we are with the one and only Mark Molnar. How are you doing? Sounds like a TV show
Well,
presentation
thank
right
you.
there.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's all good. It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks, like since the year started, so can't really complain.
Okay. So yeah, let's go. You've been heavily requested by the students. Seems that a lot of people are looking up to you.
Awesome. That's really flattering to hear.
Let's get a quick introduction if you want to talk a bit about your career and how you eventually landed at Pixoloid, rather at creating Pixoloid.
Okay. Well, I started in the industry like probably around 2000, like six-ish, five, six, so nearly
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. Um, Originally, I'm coming with a from a like traditional art background, so I studied like drawing and painting, and then I went to the University of Art and Design here in Hungary, and headed more towards graphic design first. But we also studied illustration at the university, and then during my university years, I more focused on like creating illustrations and then later digital illustration, and that's when I got interested more in concept art. Uh, after I graduated, I basically started freelancing, and then came a number of years where I moved a bit around the world, and also did a bit of in-house concept art work and a bit of like freelancing, doing illustrations, or I've been doing a bunch of stuff, even like packaging designs back in the days, and and then quite a number of years later, in I think 2014, I ended up working for Ninja Theory on the first Hellblade game,
Mm-hmm.
and but after we finished pre-production, I had to move back to Hungary because of family reasons, and that's when I basically started my company with teaming up with one of my really good friends from back from university, who was also like went back to freelancing at that time, and we just thought we just gonna channel through all our freelance works through this company and see where it goes, because that way we would be able to like pick up bigger projects as well, because there were the two of us, and then it picked up pretty quickly actually. So we thought it's gonna take a while until we can do the actual company full time, like beside the freelancing. And after about like probably 6 months, we have been working in the company like full time and doing that ever since. So that was like nearly 10 years ago, and so I'm still doing that. Since then, we have grown quite a bit. I think the top was like 15 or 16 artists in house.
Wow, that's a lot already.
But now we had a really tough like year and a half in the past, like 2 years. I'm sure, like I know you are aware because we have been talking about this, but I'm sure people are aware of what's happening in the industry, both in the films and the
Yeah.
games. So it was quite tough. So we have to let about half of our crew go, but we started to like hire again and grow again now in the past like 2 months. So everything is getting back on track. And so a few words about the company. We are mainly doing live action stuff, so doing concepts for TV shows and feature films. That's about like probably 60-70% of our work.
Mm-hmm.
And another probably 20 or 30% is doing concepts for high-end game cinematics and game trailers. And we're also doing a bunch of illustration work for like RPG games and marketing art, but mainly focusing on pre-production. So I would say probably like 85-90% what you're doing is like from the very early, like pre-prep, like each development just for scripts, and moving into like early pre-production before the production starts, and also like pre-production. So we really rarely do like concepts for VFX and stuff, but sometimes it happens. So like set extensions and VFX for like actual VFX or for like creature work and things like that. So mostly like actual production oriented pre-production work. So costume designs, prop designs, keyframes, location designs in connection to the actual sets, what they're building and things like that.
Yeah, it's
of
great.
Course, that's in live action.
It's great that you are mentioning all those different things that you are doing, because when we see your work, when we see the production you have been working on with your team, someone might expect that you are mainly doing keyframes and all of that, all the cinematic shots, and I'm assuming you are doing a lot, of course. But it's good that you mentioned also environment design, creature breakdowns, and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this, and it's really misleading because, of course, like keyframes is basically the accumulation of all the work what we have done previously.
Yeah.
So like we are working together with like set designers and production designer and everything, and sometimes it's just we are just doing like experiments about certain objects or certain materials or maybe the facade of different houses, and then after we finish the concept, they're doing the actual set designs what they are building, and then that comes back to us to do the finishing. So how the facades are going to look like, and then we are doing the signs, what is more like graphic design work, and then we are doing the set dressing, and then we are placing in like all the people on the streets, so stuff like that. So it's always come in steps, and what you see in sort of the keyframes, those are really the accumulation of really a lot of different design works presented in like one piece. But usually what you see on our like website, for example, under a project, those are usually just a selection of
course, yeah.
of all the designs what we have been doing.
Yeah, just like a lot of studios, and that's what a lot of people have been learning recently, is that on the website of studios or even on ArtStation, it's only a very curated selection of what you guys have been doing. And you're not showing the doodles and the stuff like that you are still sharing and doing for clients, of course. But
I think there are two reasons for this, and I think it's the same with every working professional,
of course,
because I mean, we as a studio, or if I would be a freelancer or a sole professional, then I would definitely curate all the work what I've done for a project, and because I want to show, first off, I want to show the best stuff, and second, I would curate the works based on my career goals or based on the clients who I would like to approach next. So it's always the same. Of course, we have, as a studio, we have sort of an image what we would like to communicate about ourselves, and we present our stuff that way.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, and the other thing is what a lot of people don't really realize is that we are not allowed to show most of the stuff.
Yeah.
So there are really strict NDAs, non-disclosure agreements with all our projects, and most of the cases we are not allowed to show work in progress stuff or anything what is not not in line with the final product.
Yeah.
That's usually the case.
Of course. And everything you said right there, it's also totally applicable to individual artists who like curating the portfolio to attract the type of client you want to have. That's applicable at any level of artistic professionalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, and applicable to any role, I would say. So not just concept art, but also illustration, any type of 3D role or 2D role across the industry. And it doesn't really matter if we are talking about games or films. It's pretty much the same, I would say.
Yeah. It really gets back to the previous discussion we had in private, where you literally say that everything you did as a studio, it's totally applicable to individual artists too.
Yeah.
So would you mind? Last time we got a fantastic discussion about the business side of art. Would you mind elaborating on that? It was fascinating.
Well, I'm not really sure where we left off, to be honest, or what we were talking about. I think, like, if I remember correctly, we were chatting about how we are approaching new clients and things like that.
Yeah, the main question that is absolutely burning everyone, and even my students were like, ask that question. We want to know the secret of studios getting so many jobs is, how do you get clients?
Okay. Well, it's kind of a tricky one, and I think I was talking to you about how I did back then when I was a freelancer, and how that applies to our studio until today. So when I was a freelancer, I was basically sending out literally hundreds of portfolios everywhere.
Yeah.
And I always try to tailor my portfolio to the company. So always like sort of doing my research and that's that sort of thing. Like online galleries weren't that prominent back then. So I was just putting together PDFs or attaching a few JPEGs, like five to 10 JPEGs, what are tailored to the style of the company where I wanted to work. And that's what I was doing. And basically, this is also partially what we are doing now as a studio. Although I have to mention that it's a lot of the work, especially in the film industry, are sort of like recommendation based.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to put it. So you get into this sort of circle, and you do one work, and if you do that well, then that director or that production designer will bring you on to his or her next project, or recommend someone, or a production assistant goes to another project. And so it's pretty much works like this. I mean, most of the time. And after a certain point, you just gonna get enough connections to be able to have work almost like constantly. But even then, we are still sort of looking for work all the time.
Yeah.
So this means every 2-3 months, or when we update our portfolio or a project gets greenlit, we are usually messaging our previous clients or previous contacts that's saying, hey, we published a new project, just wanted to check in what you're doing, or what are your plans, if you can help out with anything, stuff like this. Just checking in with our directors. And we literally do that every like, I would say probably 3 months is a good period, because even if we have been working together, even if we have done a bunch of projects together, it's good to sort of remind them that you exist. And I think it's the same if you're a freelancer.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's especially important after the last 2 years we got in the industry to remind people, okay, the industry has been shrinking massively. And I guess a lot of artists and even studios learned the very hard way that you cannot relax, you cannot soften up regarding reaching out for clients. Because if your whole strategy is to be one client away from being jobless, you cannot control that, and you need that safety net.
Yeah, that's true. And it's especially harder for us as a studio because, you know, if you're a freelancer, you can't, and we were talking about this as well last time. So if you're a freelancer, you can't really take on more work. So maybe you can take on one bigger project and maybe one or two like smaller one on the side if you can manage your time, or if you are more flexible or faster. But as a studio, we usually work based on mandays. So like actual like daily bookings. So we can just only stretch to a certain size or a certain booking. But even so, the tricky thing is that we have to look for work where we are the busiest, basically, because so let's say I contact a client, if they have something coming up, that usually takes at least a month from the initial contact to actually starting the project, or at least like 2-3 weeks. That's probably the minimum, but I would say more than a month or a month and a half. That's usually the gap. So we have the first contact, then 6 weeks later we start the project, and usually you start invoicing after the first month. So now we are at 10 weeks, and usually they pay for 30 days, so that's another 4 weeks. So from the initial contact, the first payment is like 14 weeks away, which is like 3.5 months of gap. So if I would start looking for a job when we finish a project, that's too late, because then that means I'm 3 months behind my actual like cash flow schedule.
Yeah, you need to pay everyone monthly because they are all in-house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we sort of choose this to work in that sort of sense because we, I mean, probably a lot of people don't know, but most of the concept art houses work on a project per project basis. So this means, I mean, they have a huge pool of freelancers, and when they have a project coming, then they contract the freelancers for a fixed period, and that's how they manage their project. So if they have downtime, they just don't contract anyone, and that's it. But we consciously have chosen a different structure because we sort of believe working with a small but fixed team in-house. This has advantages because we can just shuffle people around different projects when we have a lot to do, and people can also jump between projects if they want to. But the downside is we also have to pay the people when we don't have any projects running, and they just sitting around and working on their own stuff or studying or whatever.
Yeah, and again, we can draw a perfect parallel with being an individual freelancer. Like, okay, you might not have monthly expenses that are that high as you with a ton of people to pay, but you still need to make sure that what you earn that month can compensate for next month if you have no client at all. You still need to have a safety net in some ways. And reaching on, especially when you are busy, it's kind of funny because last time I was interviewing Vincent Meunier. He's working at Riot, and he was saying kind of the same thing. He was like, when you are busy working, studios tend to trust you a bit more because they know something might be going well on your side, and there might be a reason people want you. While when you have no client, they might also assume there is probably a reason for that is probably negative. So you probably want to always keep up with that momentum, and in some way, it's probably a bit of maintenance.
Yeah, I think it's the same analogy when you walk in like when you're a tourist or walk in a new city and trying to look for a restaurant for lunch, you usually don't really want to sit in a restaurant what is totally empty, right? Because then it gets suspicious. Why not nobody sitting there, and you get radiated more towards the more crowded places, more people trust. So it's pretty much the same way with work as well, I think.
Definitely. That covers a lot about the business part already. So just one question that might also interest people. You mentioned that for you, but if you have tips to give people to transition from being an individual to starting building a little studio, how would you approach that?
I think if doing freelancing is probably can teach you a lot. So I would definitely start with that. Personally, I wouldn't start from being a full-time employee and moving to starting a new studio unless you have a lot of connections and a lot of potential clients. But with freelancing, you can doing freelancing for a few years can teach you a lot about the business side of things. So how to handle contracts and negotiations, what you have to look for with invoicing, with due dates, how to work together with an accountant, how to pay your taxes, what are your expenses, what you can write down, and things like that. I mean, it's a bit different in every country, but
of course.
But usually, these are the main things what you have to look out for, because it can be. I remember when I started freelancing, it really surprised me that, oh, now, okay, I earn this much, but then I have to pay an X amount as tax at the end of the year, and it sort of surprised me that I had to pay an accountant to because I really think it worth every penny to trust with someone doing your tax returns and the calculation of expenses and things like that. So, but that's sort of things, and if you're doing that, that's sort of, I think, the best way to learn, because the risks are much lower than starting a company. Of course, starting a company would require a bit more funds as well upfront, and especially if you want to hire someone or work together with more people.
Yeah, definitely. And regarding the tax accountant or even the money you have to front load, I guess when you are starting any kind of business, you need to think a bit more long term. As a freelancer, you are very instantaneous. You are like, okay, I'm doing this task, I'm going to be paid that amount, or worst case scenario at the end of the month. But as a studio, you need to see pretty much everything like an investment. Like that tax accountant is going to avoid me this and that risk and save me that and that amount of time that I'm going to be able to utilize elsewhere, or hiring that people is going to eventually be able to deliver this amount of return over investment.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I always did like to play safe. So how I was operating, like when I was a freelancer, I felt comfortable. I think it comes. I felt comfortable when I had my sort of living expenses and business expenses covered for at least like 6 to 8 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably because I lived a lot abroad and I did not have any support when I was younger, and I knew that I would need like at least that much time, because if I lose my job, I would probably need at least like 2-3 months to find a new one and transfer to the new one, or I have to move to another country, then I would need a certain amount of money. So that's where I felt sort of comfortable, and I sort of brought that mindset with me into the company, and we sort of operate the same way. So we don't really like. I mean, I don't have like a Maserati or whatever, when from the profits or anything.
How dare you?
So I more, yeah, or like, that sort of stuff. I'm not, first of all, I'm not interested in that sort of thing, but also I'm more like to like have a longer sort of safety net when anything happens. And actually this proved to be really valuable because I mean, fortunately, Gaspar, my business partner, thinks the same way. And so if we wouldn't operate it that way in the past years, then we wouldn't have survived the past 2 years.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of backups, and we had so many ups and downs because of the industry crash in the past years, and like Hollywood strikes and everything, that we really needed that backup.
Yeah, definitely. And for everyone having that safety net, either being it financial or else with job options, or probably a bit both, it tends to be very important. Again, I think a lot of people learned it the very hard way across the last 2 years. You see people working at studios for like 15 years, losing it all, and basically getting back to ground zero, not even knowing how to send an application or something like that because there was not the need for it. And it's a bit like pick your poison. Do you want to relax at work, but have that little voice in your head telling you, hey, buddy, you're one layoff away from being in a dire situation? Or do you want to just spend maybe 1 or 2 hours a week just to do a bit of maintenance with your network, reaching out to a few more people, and at least be able to sleep peacefully at night?
Yeah, that's really tricky because, I mean, what happened in the industry the past like year and a half or 2 years, I haven't seen anything like that in my career. So that's really rare that something happens. I mean, there were always like ups and downs, and there were always redundancies and or project cancellations, but not with this magnitude. And the problem was that a lot of the things like happened in the same time. So first the script writer strike, and then the actor strike, and in the same time the whole like development with the generative AI. Though I don't think that really affects our industry as much as some people think. And then all the rationalizations from the game companies and redundancies and project cancellations, and the same thing with the projects run by the streaming services. So a lot of things happen in the same time. Usually it's more spread out, and something's happening here, and maybe a year later something's happening there, but not like.
Yeah, and especially with the project, I guess given how most of the studio expanded like crazy post-COVID, it must be a weird situation to be in one of those big studios who release 1 or 2 flops already, knowing that you have like 3 or 4 more that you started developing post-COVID, and you know for almost sure it's going to be the same result, and you don't know if you should kill it already or try to release it already. It's a weird situation. It's going to take a bit of time for them to readjust. I'm sure most studios are already back at the drawing board and learn from the mistakes. It's just that making a new movie or a new AAA game, it takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But just to assure everyone, I mean, the whole situation started pretty early for us because, as I said, we are in a very early pitch phases and like sort of pre-production. phase of things, and so it started basically with us. So as soon as the writers started, like 2 or 3 of our projects got canned in that month. So, but the thing is, most people don't realize, but it's already started to pick up. Like in the past, like 2 or 3 months, slowly 4, we had more approaches and more bookings about projects than what we had in the past 2 years. So it's definitely picking up. So we are heading in that direction. More and more projects getting greenlit. More and more projects are starting. Just people are not aware of that yet because they are not at that stage of the whole process. Here we are. So
it's funny you mentioned that last time, probably like a bit more than 1 week ago, and I was feeling like, at least it was my sense with the beginner artists, that the psychology was at an all-time low. And in the meantime, I got like 2 hires, 2 people getting interviews and all of that, and the moral skyrocketed back up. That's crazy. So that's funny. And now that you say that, and in just a week, I've seen a lot of job opportunities already. So
and just if you open your eyes and look around LinkedIn, I mean, I remember like a year ago, LinkedIn was full of.
It was a disaster zone.
This project got canceled. This studio closed down. Like 2,000 people got fired from this company, and like day after day after day. But now in the past like couple of months, I started to notice that it more and more pops up. Like, okay, this company is recruiting. I mean, opening new roles. I started at this new studio. I started a new role at this studio. So more and more things happening, things like this happening, which is really, really reassuring and positive.
So it tends to be a very vocal minority generally, and even if they are bad news, especially in like the last 2 years, it doesn't mean that the industry is dead. It doesn't mean that there is not opportunity. It just means that everyone needs to reassess the overall strategy to get jobs. And I think you were saying last time that a lot of people paint things like AI, layoffs, the corporate grid, the shrinking of the industry as they want them to look like and be, rather than what they really are. And I think it kind of deprives them from agency against that. Just because something is bad doesn't mean there's not actionable things you can implement at your own scale that you control that can totally, but get you ahead.
Yeah, but it's really misleading because, I mean, especially like bad news always have more popularity, you know, that sort of a sense. And so just to give you a few numbers, so the game industry, so you see all the layoffs and everything, and I was honestly interested like last spring that, okay, but what does it mean exactly? So I did a bit of a research, and back then we were capping around 80,000 or probably 100,000 layoffs during like probably 4 or 5 months. And I figured that that's probably around between 2 or 3% of the whole like mass working in the whole game industry.
Wow.
And if you compare to that, so all the 2 or 3% of all the people, and if I would say to you that 2 or 3% got laid off from a company, that you would probably say, okay, yeah, that happens, right? Because you have to rationalize costs. Maybe a project got canceled or something. It's just, the thing is that if a big company who has maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 10,000 employees let go maybe 1,000, then that you only see that huge number, that 1,000 people got let go.
Yeah, it's big for that company, but not for the industry.
Yeah, but compared to the industry, it wasn't that huge. And the other data what I'd like to drop in is the profit of the gaming industry is about 4 times bigger than the combined profit for the world's whole film and music industry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole profit from the film industry and the music industry combined is about like 40 million USD, and the gaming industry is 120 million USD.
Billion, you mean?
It's incredible. Not billion. 120 million USD, I think.
Okay.
It's basically there's no problem with the game industry. So nothing. A lot of projects are happening. All the games are booming, mobile games especially.
Yeah.
And all these games are going to need more and more creatives to work in and to create those games.
It's kind of the story of the whole industry forever. I remember I was being told that already back in 2014, 2015, when I still was a student. Someone who was working already in the industry, was working at Eidos Montreal, he was telling me the industry will always be desperately hungry for new talents, but it's just that it cannot afford to pick anyone. It's still very picky, and that's the whole problem. It needs more, but at the same time, it's more and more picky, and people are not really keeping up with that to satisfy the needs of the industry. It's kind of funny. And back on those layoff numbers, it's definitely when you got certain news like the layoffs at Blizzard or Bungie or Ubisoft, the numbers are big and the percentage is massive compared to the staff number of that studio. But as you say, it's not that much if you zoom out and you look at the full scope of the industry. And also regarding games, of course, we got a lot of flops, but we got also amongst the biggest success we have ever seen in the gaming sphere. You look
exactly. It's the same. It's the same with games, and it's the same with animation.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at what happened this year. What was it? Transformers 1. Incredible. Blue Eye Samurai, just a series. What should I say? Arcane, second season of Arcane. What else? Wide Robot. I don't know. A bunch of really super incredible like animations, both series and actually animated shows.
Yeah, and even for games in the last year, we've like
Secret Level. Just came out.
Secret Level was massive, and we got like the DLC of Elden Ring. We got Palworld. We got recently Helldivers. We got Marvel Rivals that is becoming a massive giant right now. There is demand for good games, and there's a public for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, now we are just talking about like AAA games, and you don't mention like all the small like mobile games and smaller stuff what came out.
Yeah, definitely. I think as artists we like to overcomplicate things way too much overall. That's something I see all the time with the students, is that they are making anything that is supposedly simple extremely complicated, because I don't know, they are kind of trying to always plan ahead everything. And I think there's also a certain importance in letting things go and assuming that clarity will come when you are in the action, actually. You cannot plan 100% of it. And
you never know. You never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah. It's going to just make you perfectionistic. And in my opinion, it's going to become a flaw eventually, because you don't get anything done eventually. You want everything to be perfect on the first try. And you just need to start, as you say, and clarity will come on the way.
Yeah, and I think you have to embrace imperfection.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. You have to, if you if you realize that what you're doing is only part of the process, and it's not really the final thing, and it never will be, then you realize it's not that sort of serious in a way, because it's just part of the process. And the funny thing is, even if you are working in a real project, that's not the end goal either. It's also just part of the process, the part of your own process, how you evolve, how you grow as an artist.
Yeah. It's funny, Leo Avro, when we got a call together, was saying roughly the same thing, like your dream goal should not be working for this or that studio. It's just a step towards your dream goal eventually.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, basically your goal is, I mean, probably as an artist, your goal is to just keep doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately, we started this whole thing because we enjoy creating stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if those are creatures or environments or illustrations or whatever, you name it. But that was our passion to do this sort of thing. And our ultimate goal is not to, of course, it's great to get money,
of course,
from this thing. I'm not talking about that, because that sort of justifies that you should do it, but and you have to pay your bills and everything. But ultimately, that's not the goal. The goal is to create a lifestyle what gives you the chance to keep doing what you like doing, right?
Yeah, and that's a tragedy. I see a lot of artists that I'm talking to, that I'm seeing on LinkedIn, is that a lot of them, it seems that they kind of lost that pleasure aspect. They're kind of chasing a studio, a prestigious title or something like that, but they don't even really like it. And it's kind of weird, because it's okay, they are making money, but they are not doing what they like anymore. It's a very paradoxical situation. I'm pretty sure you have seen something like that with applicants at your studio too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tricky. That's why I like to keep doing stuff just for myself. So even if just sketching or stuff, or at the moment I'm working on my second short film.
Nice.
So just have something for yourself, what keeps yourself motivated. I mean, if you can find those things in your daily work, that's even better, because I think you can always find something, even in the worst project. If the project is really shit, you can just focus on, okay, you can just say, okay, I'm gonna focus on this aspect, because I know I can learn a lot from that.
Yeah, definitely.
So but it's always good to have something on the side. I think just to keep yourself motivated.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about that, speaking about having stuff that are fulfilling and all of that, you partially answered that with what you just say regarding your short movie and kind of disconnecting from client work. But making a studio, being the founder and the big boss of a studio, I guess it changed a lot your relationship with art at some point, right?
Well, yeah, I'm in a really fortunate situation, because I mean, there are the two of us as founders, so there are sort of two art directors and two CEOs, which can be really frustrating, but I think we are really lucky with my business partner, because we balance out really nicely each other.
Okay.
And we sort of complement each other, and we can divide the different tasks, so it gets less boring. But But of course, it changed a lot. I mean, especially since my freelance days, where I was doing mostly, or and I would start with probably with being full time. So if you're full, when I was a full time artist, the only thing what I have to focus on is doing my art, right? And then moving to freelancing, that become like probably 85 or 90% art, and then 50% the business side, because that's what you have to do as well. And then transitioning into being like a studio owner, and then as the studio got bigger and bigger, I had to do more and more administration, of course, more and more like emailing, contracts, negotiations, and stuff like that, which can be pretty boring, of course. And of course, from sort of a concept artist, I became senior, then became a lead, and then now I'm sort of an art director, creative director, and I was also doing like art direction on game cinematics for Bungie's Destiny, for example, where at Axis, I think the top was about 250, nearly 300 people in the project. So I've done a couple of real big projects as well, and it's not just about doing more administration, but your sort of level of responsibility changes a lot, because and that matters a lot, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But I still try to do as much hands-on work as I can. So now what I'm doing at the moment is I'm doing about like half of my time, or 60%, 70% of my time, I'm focusing on actual doing like concepts and artworks, and trying to handle all the administration in the rest of my time.
Great. Yeah, not every studio owner can do that. Some of them, they are just in PowerPoints and emails all day.
No, I mean, as I said, it's sort of a conscious decision how we formed our studio, because if I would be focusing on just purely on growth and just purely on getting in more and more projects and more work for a studio, then that would probably be the case. But our goal is not necessarily to have more work and more people working for us, but more doing maybe a bit fewer projects, but leveling up the quality of what we are doing.
Yeah. It definitely makes sense.
And it worked out well so far. So or basically, or not end goal, but our next goal is to actually like doing some bigger projects, and in the downtime doing our own projects just for ourselves. So.
That's nice. Still talking about the studio, and you having seen a lot of people trying to join your ranks, and also having to manage a lot of people. You were talking about soft skills last time. Can you elaborate a bit on the soft skills that you value the most for artists in general, especially yours?
Well, it's really a tricky one, because a lot of people, especially like juniors or who are starting out, thinking that the actual like hard skills, like professional skills, like how you can draw and what software you use and stuff like that would matter the most. And at the beginning, it's true. So that's how you can get yourself hired. But the thing is that I think soft skills matter at least that much than the hard skills.
Definitely.
So how you communicate, how you cope with people, how flexible you are, how you can handle feedback, and that sort of things that matter at least that much, if not even more, than your hard skills. Because if no matter how professional you are, but if you're an asshole, then nobody's gonna want to work with you after a few weeks or a month.
Yeah, definitely.
So it really matters a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And in a portfolio, what are the things you will be expecting?
Well, it depends on what position we are looking for. We are really rarely recruiting, to be honest. Now at the moment we are looking for an illustrator, but usually we are looking for like actual concept artists, and it's a tricky one because we are mainly working in live action, so we are focusing on that sort of things. So what our clients require from us.
Yeah.
And like I would say like design skills, and from the hard skills side, the design skills and the visual storytelling skills are the most important for us, because that's what you have to use the most. And of course you have to have a professional knowledge of like using perspective and anatomy and lighting and colors and
those are non-negotiable.
Those sort of things. Yeah. I think that's sort of the minimum, because if you don't have those sort of skills, we just don't have the time to teach you or train you. I mean, if you have those skills, but maybe you are not that proficient with 3D, or you have to learn a bit more about set dressing or whatever. I think that sort of thing, that what you can pick up during the work.
Mm-hmm.
But those basic like sort of art skills, what are just as you said, those are like non-negotiable. So those are the minimum, and then everything else is a plus. I think like training your sort of the eye and have sort of a taste for this thing is it also comes with time. And you can learn that, because the more stuff you experience in the industry, the more you're gonna know what is a good design and what is not. Because usually people, I mean, I also started with designing a bunch of crazy shit and without any like functionality and whatever, and that's sort of like during all those years it got cleaner and more functional and made sense more. So I think those things come with time. But so yeah, those sort of things, and probably the third thing is what could be really beneficial, if I can see on your portfolio that you understand the process of things. So just so understand what is happening in even if you're a junior, that if I can see that you understand that there is a brief and that there is another like 3D artist coming after you or set designing coming after you, how to you can use references, or and then that goes back to the soft skills again, because that means that you are prepared to communicate with your team members and potentially with parts of artists on the client side.
Yeah, to me, that knowing the pipeline, knowing who is going to get your work after you, who is handling the work before you, also as a concept artist, is because you're you're kind of at the crossroad of every job. And if you can know to respect the source material that will be given to you and make sure that the people after you, the 3D team, the VFX, the animation, all of that, they can also respect the material and do their job without having to guess, you're going to score a lot of points because you save so much time and money to the studio.
Absolutely. And yeah, you also said the magic words because because a lot of people don't really realize, I think, that what we are doing is not really like art in a way.
It's a job.
It's a job, and we are designers and apply artists, and our job is basically to save money during the process. That's the only thing why we are there. Of course, like beautiful designs and functional designs matter as well, but at the end of the day, you are there to help the team to achieve a certain goal in a more efficient way.
Yeah, and it's also a matter of incentive for studios, because the way I present it to students is really, let's make an equation. Are you creating more problems and questions or more solution to the team with your work? The more you lean towards solution, the more likely you are to be hired, because you're going to save money, if not make a real profit to the studio. It's going to give them incentive to hire you and to hire your friends doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Just a quick question in that case. Besides a short movie, like a second short movie that you were mentioning, are there any other project that you will have personally?
Well, I think that new short is going to keep me busy for at least half a year.
Okay.
Or maybe more. And the thing is, I don't have much free time. So of course I'm doing the studio stuff. I'm trying to do as much hands-on work. But now we are working in the studio. Now we have two relatively big projects, but I'm not allowed to talk about just yet. Plus, I have family, so I like to spend time with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, even I'm doing stuff for my short film like early in the mornings and sometime half an hour at night or an hour, you know. So I don't have that much free time. I mean, I'm still doing some like sketching in my sketchbooks and stuff like that, but yeah, I decided to, so after my third short film, I really decided to focus on like one big project at a time and put all my free time and all my like extra energy into just one thing.
Okay. Are you planning maybe a bit longer term to provide education to the art community?
Yeah, it would be great. I mean, I've done a course about concept art just this autumn for 3 months, and from time to time I'm approached by doing mentorships, like private mentorships. But the thing is, the problem is I don't have that much time, and it wouldn't be fair with the students that I basically cannot dedicate as much time to them as I would love to. What I'm planning is doing a few like short tutorials. We were talking about one. I mean, a new starting YouTube channel just approached me just to do one about like art direction, what I look in portfolios. So that's going to come out. It's going to be relatively short, so probably like 15 to 20 minutes. It's going to come out, I don't know when, probably soon. And I'm also thinking about like turning my lecture, what I've done at Kind of Art, into like a short tutorial or maybe like 3 10-minute tutorial or something like this. But besides that, I'm not sure. I mean, I would love to go back to like workshops, like Kind of Art and festivals, to do lectures. I would like to. I would like to do that. But like doing more teaching, well, we'll see. We'll see how life goes. I love to teach, but at this moment, I cannot take on like any like longer courses on things like that because just my schedule doesn't allow it.
Sure. All right. In that case,
how about you? Because I know you are doing, Louis. You are doing the teaching.
Oh.
What's your approach to that one?
There's a lot of things planned already. The mentorship is one thing, and it's going great. We are starting to get great results, of course, with the mentees. Now the next step would be for me to approach as many studios, gain their trust, better understand from them what they are looking for, because right now we are just guessing with the student. Like I'm assuming that with the result we are guessing decently, but it will be even faster and easier to know exactly what studio wants, establish relationship with them, and eventually constantly entertain a discussion with them like, okay, tell me what you need. Let's see if there is someone in that pool of talent that will suit you. And if it's close enough, how can we train that person for you in order to eventually funnel it in your studio? That will be my next step. And the more time passes, the more I'm getting in touch with studios about potentially doing some potential scouting or talent acquisition for them. So I'm starting to think about a system where there are studios on one side. They tell me exactly what they want and what they need. There is the artist in the middle. There's my student. I can potentially train them and funnel them to studios, or else we can have some kind of open application for pretty much anyone. And we sort them out. Maybe they would be suited for studios, or else I can bounce them back towards education, either by me or by other artists. And the goal that year is to act like a central hub of at least education and hopefully a bit later talent acquisition for artists. So the big goal is someone arrive, we can give them exactly the education they need. So it gives free marketing, free sales to a lot of content creators that are doing tutorials, mentorship, or whatever, and that are kind of curated to the need of the people. People hopefully get them for a bit cheaper or something like that. And I get contact and potentially a little cut, so everyone wins. And we can do this kind of arbitrage of talent. Because what I've realized by doing that mentorship is that artists struggling to get a job is just one side of a coin. And the other side is studios are struggling to get the right talents.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm pretty sure you recently made an offer for an illustrator job. I'm assuming you're already getting swarmed by applications.
Yeah, we received a bunch of portfolios already. The thing is that at this stage we are only, because from time to time we hire like freelancers on a project per project basis. But now we are looking for someone who can like partially join us in the studio as well. And that's kind of a tricky. So that's why we are looking for Hungarian residents at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a bother for this one, but
yeah. So yeah, hiring is always tricky, especially with the visa restrictions. Like you are in EU, getting someone from the US is going to be complicated, and not every company is having a proper structure or the desire to work with freelancers long time, because they are potentially creating challenges when it comes to managing them long term. Yeah. And that's another issue.
I mean, it really depends. Plus sometimes we have projects where we are not even allowed to take on freelancers.
Yeah.
So because of all the NDAs and security reasons, all the people actually working. So we are not even allowed to do like home office stuff. So all the people who are actually working on the project have to be in-house in the studio
Yeah.
when they are working on that. So it's also tricky in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah. And same for a lot of people who are in a lot of people who are not in Europe or in the US or in the big hotspots of the industry. They feel a bit disenfranchised sometimes. They feel like they are not born with the privilege of being in a where things happen. Would you have any tips for those kind of people?
I don't know. That's really tricky. But I don't really have any like go-to tricks. But I can just reassure them that it can work. I'm from originally from the northern east part of Hungary, from a small city, and I've been working for the biggest companies across the globe. So it doesn't really matter, and it matters less and less, especially after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Companies got much more flexible. So yeah, it's probably now is the easiest to get job anywhere in
Yeah.
the globe since this industry exists. There always will be projects where what you just cannot do if you are not there because of security reasons, but you cannot do anything, cannot really do anything with that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if you get to a certain level and if they really want to work with you, then they find a way to
Yeah.
to work around it.
It's all a matter of trust eventually.
Well, it's not that many studios, but there's Digit Pictures is here, and in the past like 10, 15 years, a lot of big studio complexes built around Budapest. So
Okay.
it's became sort of
Interesting.
a hub for feature films and TV shows.
Okay.
So they shot Blade Runner here. They shot the Dune movies here.
Wow.
And and the bunch of other
Damn.
like bigger feature films and TV shows.
Okay.
So you would be surprised because you don't know much about Hungary, and if you're not in the industry, you don't know that those films are actually like shot here, like just probably 10 kilometers from Budapest.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Any final word in that case?
Well, not really. It was really great chatting with you, and yeah, if anybody has any questions for me who is looking at this or listening to this, just feel free to reach out to me, and I will do my best to answer as my schedule allows.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook.
I will link your social in the description. No worries. Just one final question. It's a bit of a loaded question. Is there anyone you would recommend for a future interview?
Whoa, that's a tricky one. Or who I would like to listen an interview with. Who I would reckon for an interview. I really did listen to Leo Avero's like talk at Kind of Park. So maybe him.
It's coming.
Nice.
It's going to be spicy. With flamboyant personality. All right.
Nice. I love him. He's a really cool guy.
He's so good. All right. In that case, I think we can call it done. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for chatting, man. Thanks for having me.